Well, this was a surprise. If I tell you its name, there's a good chance you'll click off my video and go back to the apocalyptic wasteland that is your recommendations feed, which somehow I've appeared on. Wait, no, listen. Okay, I'll tell you what it is. It's a gameplay reveal of the single player campaign of Star Citizen. Yeah. It's called Squadron 42. Squadron 42 is looking to be an epic cinematic experience strewn with big long cutscenes filled with very famous actors such as Mark Hamill, Gary Oldman, Henry Cavill, Gillian Anderson, John Rhys Davis and Andy Serkis. That is a staggering lineup, and that's not even everyone. It has been in development alongside the playable multiplayer sandbox portion of the game for a very long time. Over the weekend we got to see a playthrough of the very first mission of that game, and the results were very surprising indeed. In contrast to the open development of the MMO, Squadron 42 has been mostly kept behind closed doors, and aside from a showreel revealed at last year's CitizenCon, not much else has been seen for many years. This year, however, the devs were finally confident enough to do a live playthrough of the opening sequence of the game, and what we got to see, in my opinion at least, definitely met expectations, and in a lot of ways exceeded them as well. I know, right? Nobody had Star Citizen on their bingo cards this year. And don't get me wrong, there were a few questionable choices, which I'll definitely talk about as well. But overall, what we're looking at here is a very ambitious and very technically impressive project. I'm going to try and break all this down for you and figure out if, after all these years, this is something you should be keeping your eyes on going forward. So the gameplay you've been watching in the intro there was all mostly from last year's preview. From here on, we'll only use footage from the mission playthrough at the weekend. So the game starts with you in the Vega system as an ensign aboard a massive capital ship on the edge of a war zone with an alien adversary called the Vanduul.
Scimitar, reposition for heading 038. Copy that, adjusting heading now.
Sorry, I just wanted you to hear that music, because you know, it's got bagpipes in it and it's freaking epic. And if you didn't agree, then you better batter down the hatches, wee man, because I'm coming to defend you, you wee Sorry, don't listen to him, he's mental. It's an ongoing issue, we've contacted the relevant people. Anyway, let's just get back on track. There's something a lot of people won't understand at the onset, and that's that this is more than just a cutscene. This is all in-game assets. So that capital ship you see there is a Javelin, and you can literally walk around the ship in the multiplayer game. Everything is physicalized to the point of absurdity. Those turrets can be manned, you can steal and fly this ship, and that is as absolutely preposterous as it sounds. Once we get aboard, we get introduced to Gillian Anderson, who plays the captain, and get some basic background on her own character.
Sir.
It is. I used to do the same thing when I was first coming up.
And I'm just going to keep doing it this way where I stop talking now and then. I want to let some of the flavour through instead of you just listening to my gums flapping away incessantly. As we walk around and listen in and talk to various NPCs, we start to get some glimpses of the story setup.
Vanduul aren't stupid. If they know we know, they would have hit us by now.
Hey, they could take as much time as they want.
These are the very first hints that we're in the calm before a storm. The waiting on the edge of a battle we can't avoid sort of dread starting to creep into the atmosphere. From the get-go though, the physical movement seems pretty fluid and the performance seems reasonable. We don't know what sort of specs this was played on, but I did notice some stutters here and there as we moved through the ship. Obviously there could be some YouTube recording issues in there as well, but I'm pretty certain a good deal was on the engine end. We encounter some NPCs here and there, and the animations look very well done, and it appears a lot of time has been spent getting their actions just right so as to make them believable as they interact with the environment and each other.
about how to make cuts, so everybody's taking hits. Winslow and the Banshee told me they got denied on extra ammo for their main gun.
The scripting does make you slightly aware that you're in a game, because you can tell the dialogue is obviously tailored to get you up to speed with the current situation. But you can walk around a pretty linear path and listen into crew and stuff, and it does a pretty decent job of beginning to embed you into the sense that you're a part of this world and crew and the current situation. I will say though, the voice acting and delivery are far above normal, and that just gets better and better as we move to more prominent figures that you encounter and will recognise. I mean, I'd be lying if I didn't say the cast alone would be enough to draw me in. For me personally, it's just fascinating, the thought of playing through some sort of space adventure with Gimli the Dwarf, you know, or for that matter Gollum, Scully, Luke Skywalker, The Witcher, and freaking Dracula. Like, what? I am nerding a little too hard right now, I know, but it's just a mad concept that these guys have been toiling away on for years. Anyway, after that it's time to suit up and the tutorial can begin. And it's all looking very smooth. Star Citizen has always been very granular in its attention to detail, and it shows here even in just stuff like this guy suiting up. And that's pretty consistent throughout, to be honest. The motion capture department is absolutely on fire from what we can see.
Hey. All set?
Then we find ourselves inside one of the ship's turrets running a training simulation, during which the inevitable happens, right? I mean, they're not going to score many points for originality in the flow of the story in this initial encounter. But it does seem pretty necessary to me now, having watched it a few times, just so as to let the epic space battle that's to follow unfold and set up the tutorial. So we get to shoot some virtual bad guys for a while and get a feeling for the controls, and probably twiddle with inversion settings and stuff like that. And then, as predicted, something gets picked up on sensors, and it's all hands on deck as the Admiral has a few words for us.
Now some of you will not survive today, but there will be no time for sorrow. We will have to grieve for them later, because 2 billion souls in this system hang in the balance. There should be no illusions about what we were up against. In the history of the UEE, a kingship has entered human space a handful of times. Battle of Orion, Siege of Tiber, the fall of Caliban. But we are the Second Fleet. History will remember us differently. We will not have to worry about it being kind, because today we will define ourselves through our actions. We will not lose the system. We will not fall back. We will win, because we have to. We fight today. So in 40 years from now, when you're surrounded by everything and everyone you hold dear, and they ask, what did you do in the Battle of Vega? You can look them in the eye and say, I held the line.
So, I hate to be that guy that interrupts Gary Oldman when he's on a roll, but he does go on for quite a bit. The cutscenes are really long, but not in a bad way. Not even slightly, in fact, just very involved. And beautifully done without holding back, which is a definite positive. Anyway, now I feel would be a good time to bring up some things. Like, this guy's face transforming as the camera panned over him. And no, I don't think that's some plot point about him being one of the enemy in a flesh suit. That was definitely a bug. And there were quite a few throughout the presentation. including 2 of the worst kind possible. During the presentation, the game crashed to desktop twice, in true Star Citizen fashion.
It's alright. We're gonna keep going.
You could tell the team were absolutely gutted, to be honest, and near the end they literally encountered a game-breaking bug when trying to hand the captain a weapon. So I mean, the game, it still has another 2 years in development, so hopefully in that time all the jank can be ironed out, and the stutters can be dealt with and all that business. There's nothing else to be said really. They went for it, they took a gamble, it didn't pay off. The crowd did take it pretty well. They play Star Citizen after all, they're definitely really used to it. And there's kind of 2 sides to take away from all that. Seeing a game you've been waiting on for so long, still needing a decent amount of polish is obviously a bit disheartening. But on the other hand, seeing a game you've been waiting on for so long running at all in any shape or form was pretty encouraging. And there will be people on both sides of that aisle, I'd imagine. But in all honesty, when it was running, it wasn't just running, because what followed Oldman's speech was mostly absolutely incredible. So, in case you are a freshly deposited crotch goblin and can't read the room, these are the bad guys basically. And they came a-packing. As in, I hope you've deleted your browser history level packing. Your life just flashed before your eyes and it was mostly disappointing level packing.
I thought it would be bigger.
Meanwhile, you're still on your turret, so you get to enjoy some blasting of enemy fighters and bombers and the like, and it was an absolutely obscenely beautiful graphical feast. It's the same story we've been told a million different ways, humans versus hostile aliens, but to give them their due, I was absolutely riveted the entire time. If I was really looking for something negative, I did think that the turret gameplay was pretty underwhelming though. I don't know if they deliberately slowed the enemies down to a crawl and had them just drifting past your line of fire, but after a few minutes it really looked boring as hell, to be honest. And I love turret gameplay. On every game where there's a turret section, that's normally just the coolest thing. But this felt kind of stale and almost patronising, to be honest. And I'm pretty sure that was the hardest difficulty, so yeah. I didn't feel like the player was in danger, the ships were too slow, and if that's the speed the ships move when you're in dogfights later in the game, that could be a very serious concern for a game about space and spaceships, to be honest. But counter to that, it was still technically the tutorial, so you know, it's hard to judge. Using the bigger guns against the much bigger, slower ships felt pretty good though. But even then, it was like everything was a bit spongy. And the way they done the precision target highlighting took something away. And instead of making things more realistic, made things more gamey and arcadey, I felt. Both those concerns are entirely a taste thing though, and you might feel completely different. And that's fine. I mean, you're wrong, obviously. But it's okay to be wrong these days. It's almost in fashion. Don't worry about it. What I will say is, it looked and sounded amazing. And the feeling of scale was just on another level. There's no doubt there. And I know they are going for a cinematic experience above all else, but if I could advise them going forward, which is a bit lofty of me, I'd say people feel good after beating adversity, challenge is its own reward, etc, etc. Don't be scared to come in heavy, it's go big or go home time. Anyway, if you have any thoughts about that, my email address is darksoulsenjoyer666@painistheonlyanswer.com. That is a joke, do not email that, just in case you like it. This epic battle goes on for quite some time, cutting back and forward between cutscenes to advance the battle playing out. and your fleet is getting absolutely decimated. This massive kingship here eventually starts opening up its main weapon and just... Yeah. Yeah, and it's all very epic stuff. Then Henry Cavill shows up with some stealth bombers and pulls off a pretty cool blindside bombing run that put a severe dent in the enemy's ambitions. And again, it's all very cutscene heavy, but if you're a sci-fi fan, you can tell this was all crafted by people who have been steeped in this genre their entire lives. There doesn't seem to be any corners cut here. It's pretty much an all or nothing gambit. There's the heavy impression that the teams at Cloud Imperium have set out on a mission to create the game they wanted to make and have held very fast to that dream. Apparently no matter the insane cost or the time taken to pull it off. And I'm not going to lie, they maybe, just maybe, might be onto something incredible here. Some of the transitions between cutscenes and gameplay were of a different breed altogether. Like, who even does that? We got ejected out of the turret after something smashed into us, by the way. It was pretty cool. You missed it. Haha. And this is where we start the main on-foot section of the intro. So you go off and start plodding about the ship, finding some heals and solving a few puzzles. Mainly just involving getting doors open or putting out fires, that sort of thing. And again, nothing new or groundbreaking, but 100% very solid looking and nicely slotted into the situation. And as you can see, even just these simple procedures are accompanied by just an extraordinary level of fidelity and animation. It also becomes apparent that we are now being boarded by the Vandal, so remaining unseen and grabbing a weapon becomes a priority. And this is where the game really came into its own for me. I'm not sure what this game's trying to be. A lot of things by the looks of it. I know flying a ship will likely play a big role, but this on-foot section was really well presented. The gunplay and sounds were all pretty meaty, and the enemies seemed reasonably intimidating. Maybe not intimidating enough for the hardest difficulty, but maybe just right for the introduction. I'm not sure. And the game still managed to maintain that cinematic edge throughout, never breaking stride and slipping into default space arcade shooterness. I was impressed. The pacing seems really nailed on foot. I mean, you could speedrun it if you wanted, but there's so much to look at, and you could tell that taking your time and looking closely and listening will likely reward the player a lot. After a while, we get forced into this EVA section in open space.
Breach detected. Depressurizing.
Sealing suit.
I mean, it's also possible that you just died and went to space nerd heaven though, because that's where I was at this point in the presentation. Launching from platform to platform with no thrusters for control, with that scene just unfolding in the background as you go. Absolutely insanely cool stuff. I'd love to get hands on with this to see how forgiving the game is with the path that you have to go. A big ship called a Hammerhead flies overhead at one point and it looks like you can possibly jump to it, I'm not sure. The whole section has a nice feeling to it and mixes up the gameplay whilst also showing off the zero-G traversal a bit. This interior section where you're going handhold to handhold seems quite stunted though. It seems that you can attach to the ground with your hands and walk with them, so I'm not sure why we're using handholds instead of roofs or walls. Maybe you can though, I really don't know. You eventually get back on solid ground and make your way to the bridge, where you meet up with the captain once more and subsequently end up getting to fly the destroyer.
Thought I was the only one left.
So did I.
Again, it's your first time flying in the game, so the hand holding is a bit heavy, but the diversity in all your actions so far is a really nice indication of what the game could be like in the following missions. Flying ships, solving puzzles, on-foot combat, ship-to-ship combat, EVA combat probably as well, loads of exploration and likely a very good story. Hopefully. There's a lot going on and all of it is that distilled sci-fi goodness. We finish off the level fighting off waves of Vandal trying to storm the bridge, whilst you and the captain try and hold them off.
We're about to have company.
It all looks pretty solid, no real complaints. I would play the unholy shit out of this, I'm not gonna lie. So, wrapping up then. It's not quite there yet, but if they do iron out what needs ironing out, we could have on our hands an absolute beast of a single player game here. A bit of me kind of loves that there's been no holding back on either the time it's taken, or the money it's swallowed, or the scale and absolute sheer number of moving parts involved in putting this together. I really hope this turns out to be one of those stories where they prove everyone wrong and pull a golden freaking unicorn out of a hat. Only time will tell though. Now obviously I'm glossing over a lot of stuff, this playthrough actually lasted ages, and if you want to watch the whole vid you will find a link in the description below. But going by some of the locations we've seen last year and what amounts to probably the coolest tutorial ever made in the history of video games here, there might be a lot of interest shifting onto this very strangely crowd-funded sci-fi game. But with all that said, if you enjoyed this video, do the like and share and subscribe thing. Check my channel for tips and guides and the like, and hopefully I'll see you again sometime. 07 guys.